Yay! To get us started, I thought we could just, have a seat here for a little bit and get to know each other. Because what's fun and wild about this that I don't normally do, but just seemed okay, was just, we all haven't necessarily spent any time together. This is our first time actually meeting. Um, and yeah, and I don't know what you've all heard, so I guess I'll start out with introducing myself, and then maybe we can go around in a circle and just talk a little bit about why we build community. Awesome. Okay. And then we will do our format. Okay, so hello, I'm Heyuh, and I am a community leader with BridgeMakers, and I love learning about um, how we build sustainable community. I'm a social scientist and have been building online communities for years now, and BridgeMakers is my attempt to kind of narrow in on a specific population and do my best to collaboratively support understanding the science of community building and social VR specifically. I think it's a very hybrid space. It's kind of like running two communities. One is the online version, and the other is the in person version. And sometimes they're the same people, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they behave differently online versus in VR. So I find that all really fascinating and love learning from on the ground leaders like you all. So that's me. Who wants to go next? Okay. That's beautiful. You're like, this is a community method. It's the other direction. It's my recommendation. Yes. Awesome. Exactly. Nice. Okay, so Kibble, what is your what is your intro?
I should go in your chat and start learning how to talk to people. So I went on, tried Black Cat, not very successful. And I was like, maybe I should go to these furry worlds. And I had no furry avatar, so I put on a little ferret. And my goal was just to talk to people. So I went in there. I was afraid. I was like, oh man, people are gonna be angry at me. I was making a new account if people hate me, whatever. But that never happened. Instead, I just started making friends, and it wasn't even like I wasn't really good at talking. I came in there and started talking about COVID and politics and stuff like that. But I guess because of my nature, I'm not very confronting. I don't really care what people think. Right? I'm more curious about like why they think things. So even though I could talk about politics, I made a lot of friends that way. And then these friends became moderators of the furry hideout. And then they're like, Kibble, you should become a moderator too. And I was like, I don't know. That's like a work. But then I thought, like, maybe I could do it to like improve myself. So I became a moderator for the furry hideout in 2023. And then at some point, they put me on a little team to make events for their group. And I was like, I don't know how to do community stuff. Like, I don't know what an event even means for a community. So I started buying some books like The Principles of Community Building, How to Build Brand Communities, The Art of Gathering, like a whole bunch of these books. I'm reading through these, and I'm like, wow, I've never seen any of this in any of the communities I've been at. I was like, so now I tried to spread some ideas, but a lot of people were resistant to it. And I was like, well, maybe I just need to go find like another group. So I left the furry hideout and went out and started exploring all these other communities. And I just couldn't find I couldn't find it. You go to most of these communities and they'll have like first of all, it's really hard to find them. Either you go on Reddit and you have to really look through and maybe someone will be like, hey, you should go to this place.
Mm.
But for most part, maybe you might find a poster in a random world. But the most part, it's just all word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first step, is like, you can't find them. The second part is you go to these events and no one talks to you. There's no
Mm-hmm.
one at the door. You kind of hop in and you're like, okay, am I at the right place? Is this the wrong time? You go in there and you see some groups talking and no one even looks at you. It's like you're a ghost. And the default is that communities put all the responsibility on the new members to integrate themselves with the community. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really hard thing.
Yeah.
So that's when I started working with Talk Group. Cold came to me and asked me to become a staff. A few months later, I became a co-owner,
Mm-hmm.
and then we redid Talk Group. So
Mm-hmm.
it used to be we would sit around and just talk about our feelings or whatever about the week, but that wasn't working very well. So we changed it to become about social anxiety. Like, okay, we need people to come in here and be able to talk to people. Right? If they can't talk to people on their own, right? Like they shouldn't be like dependent on us for all their social needs. So we want to help people to find their own independence to go out and do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, I made Curious Connections. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not about social anxiety. It's about I'm looking for people who really enjoy talking to people, or at least foster that curiosity in people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still working on that right now.
Yeah.
But
Wow. So rebirth into kind of the next level, people that are
yeah.
excited to be ambassadors, to like be connected in a like enthusiastic way.
Mhm.
Interesting. Very cool. Curious connections. Okay. So Tim.
Yes, hello.
Wait, Tim.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. Ren's got to go next. She doesn't like going last. I told you exactly how it was gonna go, and that's how she wants
Fantastic.
it.
Oh, that's
So
great. Okay, Ren, we're
yeah,
gonna go
go ahead, Ren.
uncounterclockwise all of a sudden here. Yes.
Oh, hey, kitty. Um, uh, so thank you. Tim. Yeah. So, I mean, Tim and I are probably gonna have a pretty similar come up here, but yeah, I started playing VR chat almost 2 years ago now, I guess, like maybe March, I think, 2 years ago, and I just kind of I didn't know anything about VR at the time. It just kind of like the headset kind of just fell in my lap. And I was just on it. I was using Inner World for a while, which is like a mental health app on Quest. Or
Mm-hmm.
at the time it was only on Quest. And I really enjoyed that, and that helped me a lot. It's like guide led meetings, I guess, and like people can just come and learn or share their experiences and stuff, and it's by topic.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was really like, hey kitty, you gotta go, I'm sorry.
Oh.
um yeah, at the time I was really depressed, and it just helped me a lot to get like a uh, uh how do I word that, like I think it was the first time that or at least in my adult life, where I felt like I had like a sense of community, because what like because I was going often enough, like people remembered me and like would say like, hey Ren, how you doing, did you do that thing that you were talking about last week, or like how did it go with that talk that you were anxious about, like that kind of stuff. And like also like relating about like mental stuff that I was going through, and being able to offer my insight, and people would offer theirs. Like it was just very like, because it was all like generally older adults, like, and it was all like we're all just here for the same reasons. It just felt very I don't know, it was really exactly what I needed at the time. And then I was looking more in VR stuff. I learned of VR chat. I kind of hopped in, and at the time I had gotten a little bit better with talking in groups and just talking at all because of Inner World. And I I have like a very vivid memory of my first the first time that I went to an inner world meeting, because I wasn't planning on participating. I just wanted to go and check it out, and everybody was in a circle, and it got to me, and the guide was like, "Okay, Ren, your turn," and all of the avatars just like looked to me at the same time, and like I was really scared of like talking in groups and just talking at all, and like eyes on me and all that, and yeah, I said what I was gonna say, and then I just had to take my headset off and just started crying because it was so overwhelming.
Wow.
But over time, I got better with it and more comfortable. So I was able to take that into VR chat. And I think like the first day that I got on, or maybe the second, I learned of no time to talk. And I just thought that that was a really great way for me to practice small talk and just like keeping a conversation going. I really liked the 2-minute limit because like I didn't feel like, you know, like I was stuck here, like how do I get out of this or whatever. Like it was a really good tool for me. And that is where I met Tim actually, in that first like month of being in No Time to Talk and VR in general. And I met a bunch of other really cool people. At some point, we were hanging out. It was me, Tim, and my best friend IRL, and someone else that I'd met in No Time to Talk. Wubby, actually, you just met him before. And Tim pulled out a questions card game, and it was all just like deep, like reflective questions, and we just got like a lot of value out of that. It was really interesting to be so vulnerable, just spontaneously like that in VR chat, and everybody's like really actually into it. Like everybody's fully engaged in this, and there's no like, you know, kids screaming around us or like people just keeping it surface. Like we're all four of us were like really like being real about it. And I just got so much value out of that. Like that's like, what is this saying? Like that's the, I don't know, that's the stuff that keeps me going, I guess. So after that, we started doing that every weekend, and more people were interested in it, and we're getting the same kind of meaning from it. And it was such a new experience for pretty much everyone, just to like have that kind of intimacy. And then after a while, it was getting big enough that like for organizational purposes, we needed a server and a group and all that. And yeah, then I guess the rest is history. So here we are.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like the birth of your community building was having a really deep conversation with some prompts and just realizing like, oh, this is a different element. This is a different way to exist in here. And I haven't found this before. So other than kind of an inner world, but yeah, wow. Yay.
Yeah. For me, actually, it wasn't like I hadn't been in VR chat for long, so I hadn't like had the experience of like going to other communities and not getting what I was looking for kind of thing. So I really lucked out. And I still haven't really like had that experience just because it does seem kind of rare that that's the focus for communities is like that kind of intimacy. So but yeah, it worked out.
And you met Tim in here? You both met him? Oh wow.
Yeah, No Time to Talk, yeah.
Wow.
And like within like it was like a month or not even that we started Fireside.
Yeah,
so.
it was. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the first success story I've heard out of No Time to Talk in like all the way.
Really?
You know, I've heard of people meeting each other, but I haven't necessarily heard of them becoming community leaders together after meeting each other there.
Well, we ended up like a lot of the people that I met in No Time to Talk like became staff and are still staff. So it's been like because like you have to be able to like gauge like you can kind of tell if people aren't into that sort of thing, right? And you can really tell when people are. So it's easy to be like, hey, do you want to join?
What an interesting maybe place for curious connections to find people. They don't know it, but they're getting interviewed like for 2 minutes. And you're just like, nope, nope, nope. Yes, you. That's so cool. It's like staff recruiting, but they don't know it.
They don't know it.
Oh, wow. Cool. Okay, Tim, your turn. What makes you a community leader?
So I guess the origin story for me was, um, I mean, I'm a pretty social person. I've, thrived on like that sort of intimate connection for a while. Even before I got in VR chat, there was like a little small friend group we had in Discord where we used to call it group therapy, where it was just, hey, Saturday nights, we all get together, hang out in Discord and just kind of, talk about the week or, talk about whatever's going on, just not really any prompts, just kind of, a space where we could all just, everybody was comfortable with each other. I think there was like 5 of us. And then, yeah, so eventually that evolved into like 2021. We started just like, oh, hey, why don't we, do some of that in VR chat? So we did, and it eventually kind of petered off. But like, that kind of set the stage for me to just like be like, I've just thought VR chat, from all the videos I've seen, was just like a social platform that, you just got on and talked. Didn't really know that there was like all of this complex world building, that people were scripting games in it, like all this crazy stuff. So like I went down the rabbit hole of, going to all the game worlds and stuff like that, and really just like getting the full experience of VR chat, going to the big like community hubs like what Black Cat and what the Great Pug, just drinking night, all those big places, and just kind of like meeting people and no time to talk and stuff like that. But yeah, so kind of went through my whole like gaming phase, met a couple groups, faded through a couple groups, but I took like a year off just because, I was just playing other things at the time. And then when I came back, was after I got like my full body, because that was like the big thing, like and it was like a pre-order thing, so it was all waiting for trackers and all that stuff. So when they came in, it was like, okay, well, it's time to get back on VR chat, and then when I got back on, all of the friends that I had previously established, it's been over a year, online friends like that kind of, fade off and go wherever, right? Because it's not like we were really actively keeping up with each other. And so I was like, yeah, let's go to No Time to Talk, see if I can meet some people and spur that into something, right? And, find somebody cool in No Time to Talk and then be like, oh, hey, let's go to another world and actually like, get into deep conversation type deal. So yeah, No Time to Talk. Ended up meeting Ren. Very short conversation the first time, but kind of just vibed off of each other, added each other, and then yeah, it was like I only usually got to play on weekends, so then it was like the next weekend. I ended up joining on her, and I think she was asleep, and then so I was just like, all right, and so just kind of went about my day, and played other stuff, and then it was like the next weekend I saw her again, and I was like, oh, let's. So then I joined on her, talked with her for a little bit, and then I think it was the 4th weekend after we had like initially met, was when I was still kind of going to No Time to Talk in the meantime, and yeah, I just on a whim I saw like this little, I think it's called like How Deep Will You Go, but it's like 100 question cards essentially, but they're layered in like icebreaker questions. Then it's like yeah, confessions, and then the last one is like getting deep or whatever, right? So just kind of a tiered thing, and I was like, this would be interesting to try in No Time to Talk. So yeah, I joined on Ren. She was hanging out with Wubby and our other friend Garlic, and I was just like, hey, I got this game, I've never really used it, you want to try it out, I want to ping pong some questions off and see if it's something I can use in No Time to Talk. And then yeah, we had like a 2-3 hour like super deep talk, and like really it was just vibing. I'd never met Garlic or Wubby before. Rin was the only person that I knew, but to have Wubby and Garlic open up like that was just kind of like, whoa, like, a bit surprising. And then, I didn't really think anything of it because, I've had that kind of connection before. But yeah, it was like, I think the day after, Rin messaged me and was like, oh my God, that was really fun. We should do it again next week. And I was like, sure, I'm down. And so, yeah, then the second week, we did it again. And I think it was just a few more of your friends that had joined. And then had another really good session. And then, yeah, the third week was the week that it really kind of kicked off. She went and kind of got a bunch of people from No Time to Talk and was telling them about it. Like, oh, hey, we get together on the weekends. We do these deep questions. You should come out. And then, yeah, it got to that weekend and we had like 14, 15 people show up.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, went around the whole group and everything like that. And everybody was really actually kind of like sinking their teeth into it. And then she was like, I think we have something here. We should, get on it. And I was just like, wow. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. I've never really done any sort of like online community stuff or moderated any sort of online community stuff. It's all just been, like close friend groups. But she was just like, hey, do you trust me? And I was just like, yeah, sure. I barely know you. What could go wrong? If it blows up, whatever. It's an online friend. Whatever. We stopped talking, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it turned to be, I don't know, like one of the greatest, just like random, like, hey, you wanna just go for it? And it's like, yeah, sure. And I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of learning and stuff along the way, just, trying to figure out what we want as sort of like the values of the community and stuff like that and what we're trying to go for. But yeah, like, it was completely done on a whim. We had no framework of what we expected it to be. It was just kind of like, we show up on Saturdays and we ask questions and then, make connections off of that. And then, yeah, like as we continued to do that and kind of focus towards that, we just had more and more people like get invested in it. And then we had more and more regulars. So then it was just like weekend after weekend of just having really good, like deep talks with everybody and like really getting to know everyone. So
yeah. So there's
not really something I anticipated doing. It just kind of fell in my lap, and here we are almost 2 years later.
Yeah, you stayed curious, even with maybe some risk. You had that memory of, I've lost friendships in here before, and it was okay. It wasn't like dramatic or terrible. Things fall through, and people just kind of fade out. And so you envision that as, this is maybe the worst case scenario, but why not try? Very curious connection.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, no offense to her. It's like I, barely had known her for like a month and a half. We've had maybe like 4 conversations, Yeah. What, I get unfriended and I never get to talk to her again?
At that
it's
point,
kind of how online friends
risk.
go sometimes.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it's not like we, had any deep, dark secrets of each other.
It almost feels like timeline-wise, if Curious Connections had started like a year ago, you two might have been part of Curious Connections group and then launched your thing, because Kibble seems like you're the target demographic, the people that are really curious to build community and like ready to go. They're ready to jump in and try those new things. Yeah. Wow. So cool. Okay. Wow. Well, this was just so rich getting to hear your origin stories, and we're at over the half-hour mark already. So we're probably going to get through maybe one question today, but I would love to see some worlds as we go. 1 or 2 questions. Who has a world that you'd like to bring us to kind of show this is why this world builds community or breaks community? And so,
builds or breaks.
Yeah. So this is a question that I ask at the Community Builder Meetup every Friday. Is I'll start, with the world that we meet in, and I ask all the community builders to like feel this world out while we do our first hour. And at the end, we're going to talk about how it makes or breaks community. Then we move on and everybody presents a different world. Even if they're not sure, have never been there, we all get to try on that exercise of who is this built for and who could this actually hurt to some degree. They wouldn't feel welcome here. They wouldn't feel like building community. So I picked this one symbolically, partly because I think Kibble's group showed me this one, or they met in it as a community for the first time. I think I had seen it the day before, but I got to see what it looked like to have, I think, 30, 40 people in this space and how it worked out to do a community event here. And I liked it enough. It's cozy, so you don't just lose people into the horizon, but it also has a kind of clear stage area, which is where we are, with a beautiful backdrop, and then it also has these corners you can go to and kind of feel like you picked the special cubby place, but everybody picks the special cubby place. So I felt like this had a really good effect on a whole bunch of different personalities, this world. So I've definitely used it for workshops.
Yeah, it
So
is very nice.
yeah, and I guess the only way it would,
I mean, I can
break
offer up
community.
a world as the
Okay,
first one.
let's do it. Trying to
All
think of my criticism of this world. I think the at times there was overlap in people hearing each other, and so they had to go on earmuff mode. And so I think it'd
Oh
be
yeah,
really cool to have a
I think
separate
that's common.
island or something, or
Yeah.
boats you can zoom to, so you could really for sure have your private space. But yeah,
All right,
overall,
I'll drop the portal right here.
nice.
Oh, here we go.
Let's go. Mm.
Oh, memories.
Oh, I think we've been here too, Kibble. Yeah, place looks familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
There's quite a few edits of this place.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Nice. So, how does this world make or break community, Tim?
So this is actually the starting world of Fireside.
Aw.
Was this was your like home world, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I joined on Rin, and then Wubby and Garlic were also here. So the highlight of it is that, you know, I don't think that it necessarily has to be something grandiose to really like inspire that connection, right? Like that, you know, a small intimate space that you enjoy the vibes of, that, you know, it kind of just led towards, you know, giving us a nice, you know, platform to just kind of have a deep conversation and be close to each other. You know, there wasn't like a lot of distraction with, you know, effects going on, or, you know, things to get into, games or whatever, right? So it just offered a lot in that sense, where it's, you know, just purely based on making that connection with somebody else.
Yeah, there's a melting pot quality. It's like the original stew got cooked here, and then bigger kind of dishes and entrees came out of the space. But first, there was this synchronizing that needed to happen with a smaller group. Huh, lovely.
Yeah.
How does this space break community or not welcome community? Who would this space be not great for?
I mean, obviously, I think it's limited in size, right? So, you know, you can only have maybe 10 people if you really just tried to cram it, right? You know, there isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could technically go out in the water, but at that point, you're losing a lot of the aesthetically pleasing. You're just looking at water, so.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm also remembering I've probably met 2 people ever in here, but I have met people who have water phobia, so they would not want to be in this space.
Oh.
They feel very
Yeah.
anxious with the wide open water space. So, yeah. It's, it doesn't always have
Gotcha.
to be like one of the crowd favorites of a world that I've taken people to has frogs in it. And there are people with frog phobias. And, there's like probably 1 out of
Gosh.
a million or something that really feel creeped out by frogs. So it doesn't have to be like this will break VR chat community if they come here, but it can just be recognizing that all spaces could burn somebody and
Yeah.
just making space to have that conversation. So then we know more clearly how to select spaces. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. Well, let's go through one of our questions. We selected such a great variety of them. And I'm going to start with maybe curious on this one. What are the
Cool.
and let's try, because we'll only have about 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
left for this part. Let's try to keep our answers to about 1 minute, and so we can get through a few of these questions, and we'll see how we go. It might not let us deepen the way in the spirit of
Mm-hmm.
Fireside, and we can break the rules if we want to. So yeah, what do you think the biggest mistakes new community builders make, and how can they be avoided?
I think is something I hear all the time is like it's just a friend group, and then they don't apply community building principles to it, and they treat it like a friend group. Like, oh, you guys will all come into a world, and we'll just hang out, and then that's it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a community. Um, when you do like that, you put all the responsibility for the new people to come in, for them to integrate with the group.
Mm-hmm.
And if your group doesn't have a purpose or anything like that, it's really hard for members in your group, to be like, oh, this guy is here for our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of us. Let me go help them out. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like, I don't know who that person is. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm going to talk to my other friends. There's no incentive to be like, there's someone new. Let me go talk to them.
Yeah. I
So
really like what you're saying
that's.
about purpose also, of if it looks like just a friend group, then I can almost assume they don't have a purpose except hanging out. So I can't prove my
Mm-hmm.
resonance with that because I haven't been invited into that hanging out vibe. Whereas if their purpose is to reach a certain population or do dancing or whatever, then I can try to fit that. But it would be clear, hopefully, if I saw everybody dancing. It's hard to recognize purpose the way we would in physical reality, where we would go to a physical space and there would be a sign on the door that says, this group is meeting because of this. Rarely would we ever see a sign that says, this group is friends who are open to new friends. It's like, I don't know if I'd go through that door. Like, that sounds really intimidating. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and in here we have way less nonverbals. I'm actually really curious. That kind of reminds me, I've noticed a theme with maybe your leader avatars that have this face mask, and I'm curious what that communicates, why that's
Oh.
there.
I
So it just
mean,
so happens that we have masks, but like just our avatars. We can take them off, but we actually
Oh,
do fireside edits for the staff and the reps. So
hmm,
like the black and gold, the white and pink hair.
mm-hmm,
The mask is just, it's not a standard element, but if your avatar has that feature, then it's up to you. But just
okay,
the colors and
yeah,
everything, like that this is fireside aesthetic, I guess.
it's
yeah,
That's yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's more male avatars. There's a thing that's pretty common among avatar creators that they use like female base faces. So like when they're not completely covered, then they don't really have like a mask presenting thing, or they all kind of look the same
mm,
because there was like one very popular head that a lot of avatar creators were using.
mm,
Um, but yeah, my original avatar before this one, it just had a mask, and if you took it off, it just it was an entirely different look. It was very angular for the chin, very soft, like so it was just, it made more sense to have the mask on, but yeah, it's just kind of something that's kind of held through. But yeah, there's a few avatars that this one's actually not that bad, but yeah, it's just kind of become a common theme. And then, like she said, for the Fireside edits, it's a lot more real estate for just little logos, or to keep that kind of color scheme without just being just an open chin.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm so curious about what it communicates. In one respect, it could be like a projective landscape where I can fill in the blanks that I'm most comforted by. But it also cuts me off from the projection that you're actually speaking. Um, and so I don't get to see your mouth moving. And so maybe that makes me listen in more, but also maybe it makes me feel like you have a barrier up. So I'm exploring that. That's
Well,
it.
yeah, there's another
Fascinating piece.
element, I guess. Like IRL, like I always wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
This avatar didn't originally have a mask. Like I had to put it on from like another thing, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that until like 7 months ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it did feel like now I always wear it just because it's me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it wasn't really like a I just like the way it looks, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
also it does, like, now I've kind of like become
Yeah.
it's become part of my VR thing
Interesting.
because it matches me. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm learning. It's amazing how we can tell many different stories with our avatars. And I'm so curious if
Yeah.
there are stories of, people saying normally I would feel unwelcome by masks on people. I feel like that's a barrier, but I feel so welcome by you. And so you are maybe compensating for that, both of you in different ways with your body language or something. So what do you think, Tim, breaks, or sorry, as far as community leaders go, what are the most common early community leader mistakes with community? Like just maybe name me
Um,
one.
yeah, I want to say that a lot of communities don't have an identity or a thing that they want to do. It's just kind of like, I'm just going to make this group, and then if we find cool people, we'll just add them. And then it kind of falls into the same thing where Kibble was talking about, where it's just kind of like, you're putting a lot of onus on the people to kind of integrate, but there's already like friend groups established. So it's like really clicky. If you weren't there from the start,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really going to integrate because they're already have like a long standing relationship, and it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
met you 5 minutes ago type deal. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of early community leaders get into that slippery slope of um, they don't really know what they want to do, so then they kind of start imitating other groups. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that, to do movie nights or game nights or whatever, but like they end up spreading themselves so thin that there's not really an identity to the group. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, very
Just another group.
copy and paste. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just another friend group or another community that just has a different name, but they
Mm-hmm.
literally do,
The same thing.
the same events. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's just like what Curious said, where it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're opening a world, just come hang out,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm. Low
there's not a
structure. Yeah.
purpose, or there's not
Mm-hmm.
like a reason for people to gather. It's just kind of like, if you want to hang out, you can hang out, but there's not
Mm-hmm.
really a reason or a purpose behind it.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. And Bren, do you have another answer than that, or are you in kind of agreement that's the number
Yeah,
one?
I agree. But my first this might be more than a minute. Is that okay?
Yeah, just
uh
aim for it.
I'll try my best. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But like listening to Kibble's thing, my like reflex thought was that um I feel like a lot of communities don't approach it enough as a friend group, but in the sense of like actual friendship, like meaningful people. These are people I want to surround myself with. Like I want to learn from this person. I want to share this with this person. Like intentional friendship rather than just like, oh, you're cool. And I feel like a lot of the success and growth and I would say like consistency or like stability over time that we've had in Fireside has come from that like sense of like there's something really, the foundation is really solid on actual intimacy and connection and like genuineness and like these things, and there are deep friendships and like so like and building on that, like getting new people to come in that fits into that, and sometimes that takes time, right? Like, or maybe, you know, someone new will come in, or a friend gets their friend, and other people are like, like most of the time people filter out themselves because it's not, it's just like a very niche thing that like you kind of have to be into it to just be around, right? Otherwise you're not going to enjoy yourself. But like if somebody like that is staying around and kind of affecting the thing, it's like, is this someone that is actually here to like genuinely connect? And those people end up being like friends. And I don't know, it's just sometimes like we've heard sometimes that it comes across as cliquey or like that we're very tight knit and whatever, but like for what we're doing, like you know, there has to be that you have to share over that one thing at least for everyone to have a good time. So yeah, I think like people treat a lot of these things like really casually, and it's just like, oh, we'll get our numbers up, or you know, some people want a game night. Let's start doing game night, and but like and then you get people that only want to go to game nights, but it's like, but we're all here for this thing. So yeah, I feel like focusing more on like the personal values and building on the friend group is, I don't know, it's another option, I guess. It's not the right way or anything, but it does seem to have some good advantages doing it like that.
There's something about what you're saying right now that reminds me of how often I've heard people say in here that there's a lot of high school cliques. There's this sense of people are collecting each other like Pokemon cards or something, but they're not necessarily genuinely learning about the human beings and finding where do we collaboratively work well together. It's this kind of we appear happy together, but we haven't deepened through the pain of it. And so you're saying, you're saying like you do run risk of looking like a clique, but also for your particular group, especially and your purpose, it's necessary to genuinely care about each other. And so if there's a balance there to find a way to kind of redistribute that caring and be abundant with it. So people maybe initially have that like jealous or that like fearful response, but they also feel welcomed and like maybe they can become a friend someday too.
Yeah, I think that, you know, some people have kind of, you know, had a anxiety towards it where it's like they come in and, you know, we may be having a conversation with people that we're close with, but that's not meaning that, you know, the circle's closed off, that they can't actually, you know, come in and be a part of the conversation. But it's just that initial intimidation of, oh, there's, you know, 6 people really having a good time, you know, I don't want to, you know, break that. So it's kind of the difference in where it's like maybe they perceive it as clicky, but it really isn't. It's, you know, hey, come on in, you know, be a part of the conversation.
It feels like we all have some threshold of walking across the room, of joining the world with people I don't know. There's always going to be that fear response, but it's the synchronicity of leadership and how we bridge with that fear response that really matters. And, you know, that's something I've really appreciated about Curious's events when I've been to them is like everybody is welcomed immediately and invited in, and not just by kibble. You know, more and more people do that. And so I think that that vibe of we're all alive and we're all taking care of this space together can be so refreshing in a place. I've often joked that the if emotions were water, VR chat would be a desert for curiosity. And so, of course, when I met Curious Kibble, I was just like, I found the waterfall. Whoa, what? Curious
oasis.
Kibble. Yeah, exactly. Not just water, but food. So, yeah, I definitely, yeah. Nice. You're like a river, a curious river of salmon and water. Lovely. So, who has another world? We're going to do one more, and then we're going to talk about values. I'm glad you started that, Ren, because I think values was the heart of what I wanted to get to today. And we have other questions we could also do. But yeah, do you want to go Kibble or just Ren?
Actually,
Between y'all two.
Actually, I don't really have any worlds that I'm closely attached to, other than like maybe the Free Hideout.
Oh, that's an interesting one. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been there.
But yeah, we can go to the Free Hideout. Okay. I think it's just more of a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
Rather than
let's
building community. Yeah.
I think my other interview with you was in the Furry Hideout, which I still need to finish editing. So let's go to the Ren's.
Ren, you're up.
Okay.
Yes, do that.
All right.
Okay.
You know where I'm going?
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing it has a fire in it.
No, actually, I don't think it does.
Oh,
There's fireworks.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay.
Fireworks, and I think what is it?
Ocean.
Like
like
the sauna or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nostalgic autumn night. Well, speaking of nostalgia. And it looks like we have some people in our audience. So while I'm traveling in between, if anybody wants to hop into VR in about 5-10 minutes, you're welcome to join us if you have been watching throughout this time. And that'll be our Q&A time, where we will get to hear what it was like to watch and learn from our new community leaders in BridgeMakers and old. Okay. Wow. You have like fire coming out of you.
Oh, I do see fire.
Get my camera. Okay. I guess I'll just be down the ground. This is so cute.
Oh no, you're drowning.
I am.
Oh, there's a fire right there. I see it right there.
Is there? Where's the fire?
It's like an ember. It's like.
Oh yeah. In the corner. Good point. Ha! There was a fire. I knew it. Oh, was it? It's a dying ember fire, but it does exist. I mean, Okay, so tell us, Ren, how does this world make or break community?
So similar to Outcasted, like at least for Fireside, where what we're trying to do is foster like intimacy. It kind of requires settings like this, I think, that are I don't know, I guess calming. There's a place to be close to each other. Not like, super close, but close enough where it doesn't feel like you're talking at people across a room, right? You're talking beside people. And yeah, I feel like the nature sounds, the colors, like it's all very I don't know, I just feel like relaxing, right? So yeah.
It also
for
brings
breaking it, I don't know.
The fire out in your hair, technically. So you are the fire. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It is. Oh yeah, that's a strong emission.
Who would you say this world is not good for? Anyone can answer that.
Maybe people that don't like when you look out that way, at least for me, I probably don't have my brightness all the way up, but it's kind of really dark and scary out there. So it's something that comes to mind for me.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm not
Want
sure.
brighter worlds? Yeah. Okay.
That might encourage people to come in here, to all huddle in here.
That's true. That could actually create that camaraderie.
Yeah. an inadvertent like force of intimacy because it's
yeah, in the
not a
goal of
direct, hey, you have to go here. Yeah.
also for a design element, I believe that like the thoroughfare here where we're not getting stuck at the end of the path in a tiny space, but there's a natural way to keep going and not be shamed for keeping going. So I might stop here for a moment and test it out, but it still might feel too intimate to me. And so I might move through and people will forgive that. And then I get to ask myself, do I want to go back in there? So there's an interesting path element to this that gives freedom and consent. I do appreciate that. Huh. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about values. Like, what are community values, personal values, and how, in a land of nobody, for the most part, reads in VI chat, I've learned, how do you motivate people to find their values? I'm struggling with that even.
Like independently, like in themselves, or within the community.
Both. Yeah. Can I know my community values if I don't know my personal values? This is another question.
Yeah. Well, that's this is something that like comes up all the time, I feel like, with me and Tim. Just our conversations about how to deal with things, and even with staff as well, a lot. Like there's been like it seems like there hasn't been like a lot of times, but like every time there is something that comes up, like it helps a lot to kind of um kind of reaffirm the community's values, and then kind of like whatever's happening, like redirect to them, if that makes sense. And so if people are doing something, or we're going off track, or like we're derailing from the core mission kind of thing, like it just helps to like reassert them, and like reestablish that like this is why we're all here, this is the focus, let's stay focused. And it does help a lot to like we have a we talk so much about like holding each other accountable, and like that requires how do I word this? Like obviously you can't decide someone else's values for them. But with the way that like we've kind of selected staff, I guess, or like how our staff has grown, there is like a consistency in the values that all of the staff has. Like there has to be things that we all share, right? And so because it's we're always thinking about it in a place of like the person first, and then friend, and then staff. And so if things are going I don't know, not great or whatever, then it helps so much, helps everybody to say, hey, you're better than this. Hey, this is not what we're here for. Hey, and just kind of like have that reminder, and there's an established like openness to that, to being, told what's up, like, and that's also important too, like having that receptive, I don't know, that availability to being held accountable. So yeah, I feel like the staff are the models, I guess, like of like the representations of what we value and what we're trying to do here. So if somebody, I don't think it would ever like really be a huge issue, because you'd hope that would show up first. But like if somebody's doing something that goes against the values, and isn't being a good model for Fireside, then like we can just have that conversation, and there's that grace to like reflect and whatever, and we're all helping each other, and people make mistakes, but let's do better, let's be better.
Wow. So one of the things I got out of that, which I think is really powerful and something you have in common maybe with BridgeMakers, is we have our human first value first. So it's that concept of, as a human body, as a human being, that's priority before we get into relationship building. And the way that value shows up at times is like, if somebody says, I need to go, I notice that a lot of community systems will be like, oh, I'm going to pull on you a little bit. I'm going to make you feel wanted. I'm going to distract you. I'm not really going to hear that and celebrate that you need to go. And all the communities I've been a part of, when I have any say in it, we really take that as like, hey, my rebirth into my physical being is right now. You can't argue with birth. You just say, wow, I wish you a good birth. Ascend into your body or something, or descend into it. So that first layer of your human body must be prioritized, and then the next layer is we need to care about each other as human beings and like care for each other and really be practicing being better people as a group. And then the last layer is now we're in that authority position to some degree, that modeling that people are watching how we behave to mirror that and resonate with it. And so if you're challenging people at that staff position level, you're still having reinforced the core human first and the friendship connection piece. So hopefully it doesn't ever burn deeper than how are we getting along as staff, not you're a bad human being and I misestimated you.
I think another thing with it too that we've kind of come across is where there is a bunch of those conversations, and it's a lot of asking questions. If somebody starts to like deviate or something new comes up, it's like, is this something you would be comfortable with identifying with Fireside, right? If this continues, is this something that like we want to attribute to us, or where it may just be like a personal disagreement, right? When you obviously build out a staff, everybody's unique, everybody has their own values and come ups and stuff like that, right? There's been a lot of kind of looking into, maybe one staff doesn't really get along with a certain person, or just has different viewpoints, so they don't see eye to eye on everything, right? There's a lot of looking at it as, okay, is this just a difference in opinion, or is this something that's like actually something that affects the community, right? Does them having a different set of values than the community's values, or is this just them having a different set of values to an individual, right? So like, I think that there is that point of like, again, redefining the community values and what you hold specifically for the community, but you still allow everyone to have their individual values underneath that.
Gotcha. So I feel like we're talking about these like, ghostly elephants outside the room. I'm like, what are these values that clash? And what? So Kibble, what are your community values? Not to put you too much on the spot.
So values has been something I've been really struggling in figuring out how to define and find. So I just take what we do. So what I want is people to be inclusive. They value connections. Let's see, what defend connections, inclusion, and curiosity, of course. But there's some new values I've been looking into, like grittiness. I was like, okay, we need some grit because these are things where people can fail, and they can be really bogged down. So how do I develop grit in people to be like, hey, failure's gonna happen, but we come back here and do this over again, over and over, and failure is just part of life. So when I try to express those values and like pair talks, The inclusion is like, okay, you're talking to some random person. I'm pairing you up with someone you don't know. They're not your friend necessarily. And you talk for 40 minutes. And then at the end, we have the connections. It's like, hey, we have the introduction game where you have to introduce your partner to the rest of the people. And we also have the appreciation game where it's like, okay, I talked to this guy. I really appreciate these qualities about them.
Mm-hmm.
And, they share. Normally, those two things are combined together. So when people start appreciating, it's like also an introduction as well. And, yeah. And then I'll tell people, like, okay, like, you guys, if you didn't have a really good conversation, which is rare, but, you guys you're doing your best, and you being here, you guys are what makes the community. When you talk to each other and you're having a positive experience, you're the ones that are making this event that positive experience. Mm-hmm. I'm just standing here by myself. Mm-hmm. You guys are doing all the work.
Mm-hmm. So I heard for you, connection, curiosity, inclusion, and maybe grit as an additional one. Be courageous, even if it's hard and you're going to do it wrong. Huh. And so then I think about clashing values. Like there is the value of free speech and there's the value of diplomacy. And those can conflict with each other when somebody just wants to be blunt and kind of say it how it is versus find the wisdom and timing to offer something in a way that is more of a calling in experience versus a calling out experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so is this something where any of you have found it useful to like talk directly with your staff about, like, hey, let's have a values exercise. Let's talk very specifically.
Yeah.
What are your values? Okay. Yeah.
So
there was actually a recent one. The one that is recently coming to mind is just the general talk of politics, right? And that's such a polarizing thing, right? Where some people are heavily interested, some people are not so interested, but then there's also like another layer there that, like, me and Ren are not necessarily politic people, right? But then there's other members of our staff that are heavily influenced by politics just because of their situation or whatever. So there was like a little bit of a clash where, do we allow politics to kind of have that inclusivity, or like where's the line on that? Because yeah, to some degree, like, we had to have that conversation, because if we cut it out entirely, we're silencing some. It's kind of a weird gray area, right? Where there is a lot of back and forth on where can we make this work for everybody.
I think there's something that came from those conversations. It wasn't necessarily that we don't want to talk about politics. It's that talking about politics has to come from connection first. Like it cannot come from being against, or from like proving something, or saying someone's wrong, or being against someone as an individual because of their leanings and stuff, like. And because it was so unreliable to like, people are so rightfully so, right? Like very passionate about these things. But if you don't have the I this might be kind of watering down it, but like the tact, I guess, if you don't have the education, I don't know, to handle that in a way that comes from a desire to connect, then it doesn't fit in Fireside. So that became like an issue, because like, yeah, there were some people, some staff that felt like they were not allowed to express themselves authentically, weren't able to have this kind of dialogue in this safe space that they have. Like, this is supposed to be the space to talk about these things that are so personal for them. But it was when it became more hostile and you know. And so at that point, if it's not reliable, then yeah, I guess it can't be that space, right? Because like how are we going to make sure that it's safe all the time for everyone? So yeah, it did just become a that was a tough one. Yeah.
The metaphor that is coming up here for me is the concept of fire starters versus fire builders.
Oh.
And that where you mentioned the tact and also the value of intimacy of going, I'm going to talk about something heated for me, but stay really curious and sensitive to how this burns inside of you also.
Yeah.
And I'm going to burn with you in a way that builds connection instead of burns the whole forest down between us.
Right.
And I'm going to stay conscious of how that's impacting anybody else around us. And so that's fire building. Whereas fire starting is just going, I have fire in me. I'm going to throw this branch on fire out and hope somebody makes a bonfire out of it and it doesn't burn our village down. But that I'm out of control inside and I'm feeling this pain and I just want to spew it kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
I'm in a painful place. So if you push on me at all, then I'm going to say you're censoring me or you're putting
Yeah.
me.
Well, another thing that we noticed was like when we were having that conversation is like we love that Fireside has become this place that is, you know, people's home that they go to, but like there's been not even just with the politics, but like different things where we've had members kind of you know, this is what it is for me, right? Like they've wanted more events or whatever, and like there has to be a tempering of where like we stand with like values to where like we can't be your everything, right? Like sometimes that, you know, Fireside isn't a place for this conversation. Like we love that you have connected here and this is a safe space for you, but like we can't fit everything in.
That sounds so important.
That's a good lesson on the inclusivity. Like sometimes there's a limit.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
how inclusive you can be.
And that's maybe where the community value comes in. Yeah, I felt like you're going to speak on that, Kibble.
Yeah, because we have politically curious events. I had one yesterday. But this is the thing I actually told Heyuh about this street epistemology or spectral speech spectral street epistemology, and it's about, you know, we laid down claims, and you know it's all about politics. So yesterday it was really easy. We went from, because I wanted to go through my rules, my Discord rules, and just see like the temperature, like how do people actually interpret these rules in my thing. And when we went to the Safe for Work,
it's a cool experiment.
it was like yeah. There was like 12 people and 12 different definitions of what safe for work means. I'm like, oh my god, you see why this is so difficult, guys?
That's a good measurement.
That's why it's so hard.
That's great.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, then at the end, we're talking about trans issues and stuff like that. But it was really fun.
So you're starting that up in your group. That's amazing. Yeah, so there's going to be values clashes, right? But I hear that you're practicing your community values. And so everybody to some degree has to sacrifice some of their personal values at times for that community value. And it doesn't mean that they have to eliminate those values inside of them, but it does mean that there's a boundary that kind of naturally comes from having community values that says, we all value this, but it isn't everything to everybody. And if it's not what you need it to be for you, maybe over time it can flex and adjust to that, but maybe this isn't the right time for it to all become everything for you. And this is the limitation of our community. And we can hold the paradox of we want to be inclusive and also we have to set boundaries, and both could coexist. Yeah, that's lovely. So, with our few minutes left here, we have had people watching and listening, but between worlds when I was traveling, I was just letting people know if they wanted to hop in and request an invite on me, then I would let them come in and join us. So far, I haven't gotten any of those requests. So maybe we're just a riveting conversation.
No, single.
Nobody's asking yet. But what I would say is, for our last few minutes, I'm curious if there's been any kind of reframes or anything interesting that's come out of this for each of you. Like, how has this been to come together as community leaders and kind of go a little bit meta above it all and talk about community building like this?
I don't know if this is totally relevant, but something that I did think about just listening to Tim's and Curious's shares. Like, I feel very privileged that I've never had the toxic community experience. I've never had like the friends falling out like thing and all that, or like, you know, trying to fit into a community and just, you know, being invisible. Like, I'm very just very grateful that Fireside was really the only community that I got into. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that's
yeah,
lovely
it's
to
just
honor.
good to
Just
know.
there's pain in this room.
Yeah.
There's learning from how wrong it has gone and how kind of just unfortunate closings or not conscious closings have happened, and even villainizing and whatever else. So you're just noticing like, wow, I've been spared, and that's amazing.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of conversations I've had though over the last 2 years that like people get like a sense of like dejectedness over time because they can't find what they're looking for, or like all of their experiences end up bad, and so they're just kind of jaded, and like it seems to like catch people off guard to be able to say like that's not my experience, and like for that to be true. And like there has been times like early on before I kind of developed my own tact with it, I think, where it comes across like I'm blaming them or something for their experiences, but that's not the thing. It's just yeah, really treating every interaction intentionally, I think, helps a lot. Like, if this person doesn't seem like you know, I can have anything beyond a surface conversation with, I'm not going to invest my time into them, right? So just, you know, I feel like a lot of people might just, you know, just want company, and then they end up in these groups, and then it turns into a thing. I don't know. But just being intentional, I think that comes maybe, hopefully, I think, I don't know, with age. I'm learning not everything I thought comes with age does, but just with your time and the people you surround yourselves with, I think being intentional makes a big difference.
That's lovely. And finding people who validate that instead of just kind of use it and then move away from that. So lovely. What about Kibble Tim? What have you gotten out of this time?
Well, for me, it's kind of one of those things that, again, Fireside just kind of fell into my lap. Like, I'm a pretty extroverted individual, social chameleon, I guess, as Rin calls it. Where like, I mean, I can really just join in anywhere and just kind of really, kind of just take a second, you know, feel the vibes of the group and just kind of, you know, hop right in there. Like it's not a very difficult thing for me. So like, I've never really had difficulty in that department. So, you know, there wasn't like a seeking, you know, a place that I needed to be accepted or anything like that. But with like Fireside and how it's developed, like I still say it, like I've never expected to be a community leader or build out. I mean, what, we're over 800 members at this point. Like that number is like unfathomable to like my mind of just being like, you know, that like we got past 50 and I was like, that's so many people. And then like it's just like
kept going.
I mean, what, within our 6 month we hit like 300, so it was just like
wow,
holy, you know, like now it's not even just like just for me at this point, like But yeah, I mean, it's been so nice to have all of these connections and developments and seeing other people make connections and developments and like um kind of share some advice where I may be extroverted, but people come in that are introverted or have anxiety towards things like that. And it takes a few conversations, but eventually you can kind of start breaking them out of the shell. Or we've had people come in that have been really anxious or introverted, and then they start seeing people go around the circle and opening up, and they'll pass on questions, but then they come to 2 or 3 events, and then they're answering every single question and actually like getting that fulfillment out of kind of opening themselves up. And like that's been such a rewarding process to just kind of not only I get to learn from them, but they're learning from me and some of the other staff, right? On just that social interaction, like she said, where it's like people have been jaded, where it's just like I don't, I've never really been accepted anywhere. I don't really think I'm gonna fit in. But then within a couple meetings, they're they've got some friends that they've made, and started their own little social butterfly journey. So that's been really rewarding in that sense.
Well, in that case, for the metaphors of sorts, I think they might be social moths or something. I don't know. The nighttime butterfly.
Oh yeah.
Firesides. Wow, that's cool. All right, Kibble, what did you get out of this time together? It sounds like Tim got some just overall reflections of gratitude for Fireside. What about you? What has this time to get today been like?
I'm just trying to figure out how to fit all these values into it. Because what you both said today, and I've already been to your Discord server and some of your events, and you have like a values pipeline, I've noticed, right? So when people first go into your Discord, they have to talk to one of you, right? They have to open the ticket, and you explain to them like, oh, these are our values, and this is like what we do, and it sets like the tone. And that's something that I'm missing in my group. People just join, they just join and then immediately start talking. But I've been trying to talk to them as they come in the welcome thing, but I think I need more of like a gate, so to speak.
Yeah.
Be like, this is not to reject you. Yeah, it's supposed to set you on the right path, so you know how to be.
Yeah, and that was an interesting thing when we started that up, right? Is it was kind of like we want the people that are here. We actually, before it was text, we actually to like get in a VC or a Discord call with every single member that came in, and like actually vibe check them and kind of like interview them. And I mean, like over time, as that kind of scaled up, like that was unreasonable, but like it gives that sense of security because everybody that's already here knows what we are, what we're trying to be. Like you said, they've gotten the values at the door, and then with the ticket system, it shows everybody that's new and coming in has been shown these values, so they're gonna know what how it should be. And everybody else, it maintains that kind of safety because it's like, hey, here's what we are. If you don't align with this, then I don't think this is for you. But it gives that overall safety, so somebody can come in and start messaging, and then immediately somebody else will be like, oh hey, how's it going? There's no question of whether they're good or not.
Yeah, that gatekeeping piece, I think I've been writing on and thinking a lot about the metaphor of like the different kinds of boundaries and different kinds of bridges. Like the smallest boundary in physical reality would be just like a line in the sand. And the smallest bridge might just be like a fallen log across a creek or something. Like they start out mild and then they can get really intense. Like it can be China Wall level, or it can be Brooklyn Bridge level. And so how do we grow those gradients of invitation, which is like the bridge, and then boundaries, which is like that wall and that gatekeeping of sorts? Um, and how do we do that in a way that helps people feel a sense of reverence and collaborative caregiving or caretaking of the space versus, excluded, or, you're suspecting that I wouldn't have these values, etc. So I also want to give a shout out to your gatekeeping. I've never seen a group do anything quite like that, but I think the
That's
ceremony,
we've talked about a lot.
yeah, the ceremony of it is really valuable, no pun intended. I guess that's our word for it today. And so the ceremony of having that sense of the staff are watching my answer. The staff are choosing to dialogue with me directly, and by picking up this ticket. And so there's this kind of, I'm in front of a tribunal here. I'm in front of a judgment moment. Will I pass these gates? Speaking of that, and then we're going to need to close for today, but in some of the more Eastern temples, etc., there's often two creatures that are put right next to the doorway. And one of my environmental design mentors, when I was doing a lot of building back in the day, told me about this as those creatures are archetypal figures that filter out hate and greed. And if you pass through that threshold with hate or greed inside of you, you will die. You cannot enter that space with those energies in you. And so those are the guardians, the lions, the dragons. They are cleansing you of those energies before you come into this communal space. And in some respects, I think your gatekeeping has some semblance of that, checking people and letting them know you are a part of something that is of togetherness. And are you tracking that we don't allow hate here, and this is not a place for greed? So thank you for your values and holding that line, and also teaching all of us how to scale that differently. Because I think castles can feel very cliquish and intimidating and war machines and whatever, but they can also feel like an intentional space that if the doors are open and there is a way to get in, there can be a sense of, oh, I don't want to be a part of burning this down or breaking these walls. So I want to respect the boundaries in here. And I know they are here because of the importance you're putting on that first entrance. So let's close up here. I'd love to get a photo if you're all willing. This is kind of a tradition. We could go stand by the embers, maybe.
The tiny little fire over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a fire, or is it just a burning pile of leaves?
I love it.
Oh, it's just leaves with a light in it.
That's
it's not actually embers. We were right.
We're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. It's so good. Nice. Maybe if Ren just, that's right. We're exactly. Speaking of fire starters. Yay. Well, I love it. Values and fire. It's so good. And yeah, I hope we can do this again. This is kind of like a fireside chat about how to build good fires. And my hope is that many community leaders would be interested in something like this to really talk more deeply about the science of community building. This was our first time in here doing this like this. Yay. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream unless there's any final reflections from anybody. You good?
Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Of course, yeah.
I need to use some